man. Hey guys, welcome to the Travel Bros podcast. This week we are traveling to the Caribbean and we will be at Turks and Caicos. We've kind of been on a Caribbean kick between our honeymoon, Atlantis, and now South Bank, but I promise we will leave the Caribbean at some point and talk about some other things. This was my trip over Christmas to the South Bank, my first time in Turks and Caicos. But Jamie, you've been. What's your kind of general thoughts on Turks and Caicos before we dig into this new property?
Yeah, I went for Thanksgiving a few years ago. I stayed at the Ritz right after it opened. I really think Turks and Caicos, you can attest to this, the water, Ice Bay, like that is some of the whitest sand, the Caribbean blue water, really nice island. I felt very safe everywhere I went. I will say I feel like you pay a premium for that. It seems like a pretty expensive island, but it was a really nice island, easy to get to, plenty of flights to Turks and Caicos from a lot of places. So I mean, it's a place I'm definitely looking forward to going back to.
Yeah, the airport situation in Turks and Caicos, I'm not a huge fan of, but generally that's kind of the situation in the Caribbean, right? In general. But I feel like they've packed so many flights in there, they really need to expand and grow that airport. A little bit would be nice. For those of you that don't know, Turks and Caicos is a British overseas territory. However, they take US dollars and they have US power plugs everywhere. So I found it kind of a puzzling. You do drive on the right-hand side of the road, right-hand drive. So there's that, but it's definitely not as much of like a full-on foreign experience as maybe you'd anticipate. So people who haven't traveled a lot, I do think it's an easier country to go and see. I forgot my British power plugs and I was very upset, and then it didn't matter. So that was a nice mistake as far as that trip goes. Digging into this property though, South Bank is pretty unique. I think definitely unique for Turks and Caicos. It is more of like a residential style hotel property. Every single unit, the smallest unit is a 2-bedroom boathouse that's about 1,500 square feet. And you can get all the way up into like a 10,000 square foot 7-bed house. So it's 92 units total. There's 5 buildings of boathouses that are 2 and 3 bedroom that kind of wrap around the outside of the marina. And then there's villas around this man-made lagoon. And then you've got the real high-end houses are oceanfront on the side, all with their own private pools. I was in a 2-bedroom boathouse. It's 2 full bed, 2.5 bath. We have a full walkthrough of the 2-bed boathouse over on YouTube in the room tour section if you'd like to get into some real detail. But I was pretty impressed. Now, mind you, the property is new. So new, I found TJ Maxx stickers on a lot of my kitchen plates. So, if you need to know where millionaires shop for their dinnerware, it might be TJ Maxx. But I mean, we had an air fryer, a Keurig machine, espresso machine, a drip coffee machine, toaster, tea kettle. I mean, it was a very stocked kitchen for like a hotel holiday.
I'm curious, and I don't know the answer to this. You may. You said they're privately owned, right? Like individually?
As far as I know, they all are. So like I found them for sale before we had traveled there. And then like when we checked in, they had like a guest book, and the people whose home it was had wrote like a big note, like, oh, this is our dream house we purchased. I want to say they lived in New York, but they wrote this whole thing about why they bought it, everything they did. So there is a little bit of like, say, variation in some of the properties. Like I could just tell from walking around all the boathouses and doing my morning runs, like some of them looked a little spec and similar to mine, but I could see like some had different tables, desks in different places.
That's why I was curious, like if it was uniform furniture, if you can kind of add your own flair to each one.
Yeah, part of me feels like they must have had like a preset, because the layout we had was probably in 5 or 6 of them that I saw that had their windows open, but there are definitely a couple that looked very different or modified. So maybe just the rentals have those prefixed, but nothing seemed that out of spec. It was just like different tables. Someone had their table pushed up against the window and it was like a different wood and some things. But I imagine your experience is pretty similarly consistent throughout those properties.
And so you stayed in a boathouse. If you had I know you have the 250-foot yacht from our last Atlantis one, so it probably didn't fit there. But if you had a boat, can people bring their boats and park them there if you can get there somehow?
Yeah, so every boathouse has a private dock. Fortunately, my 250-foot boat did not fit. I had to park it out at sea and take my dinghy in. But I want to say, might have to fact check, but I want to say you can do up to 26-foot boats on those docks. And then even if you don't own your own boat, they did tell us if you end up doing any water activities or any of that stuff, they can just come pick you up directly from your own private dock.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, which is allowed. And then I think if the boat is bigger, there's actually part of the marina, as they've expanded it now, is kind of inside the hotel. So there's a place like if you are looking at a property map, you've got the 5 boathouses, and then between the boathouses and where the lagoon starts, they've actually built part of the marina as well. And I think they even have like a concierge dock and some things if you're really doing things on the boating side. But I imagine if someone had like a 35-foot, 40-footer that they were picking up in, they could just dock over there, which would be I don't know, 2 to 3 minute walk from your room from most places.
I'm actually going to call out a water sports place in Turks and Caicos. I was going to use them when I was down there. Our trip it never happened. I followed them on Instagram and different social media. It's called Wake to Wake Water Sports in Turks and Caicos. Just check out their videos. You'll want to book whatever they're selling when you go down there because their videos are amazing. Like everything looks awesome.
Nice. And they serve pretty much everywhere on the island.
Yeah, it seems like it. And it's, a lot of wakeboard boats, a lot of things like that. They'll take you out to, I don't know the name of it, but there's like that shipwreck off the coast
Yeah.
of Turks and Caicos. They have videos of them out there like jumping off that. So it looks like you can do some cool stuff with them.
Nice. And, feel free to sponsor us, Wake
That's right.
Company in the future if you need to. So that was mostly the setup of the hotel. It was 60% occupied, they told me, which I found really shocking because they had only been open about 6 weeks when we were staying there. So I was pretty impressed with the occupancy. You don't really feel it on property. I wasn't really sure where people seemed to be all day because they certainly weren't walking around the property. I'd see a lot of people at breakfast, but like once you kind of got breakfast, it calmed down a lot on property, I would say pretty quick. And then you just want me to dive into breakfast and some of the dining options on property, or you got anything else for me?
I was going to ask you, and you can kind of hit on breakfast too. Like, all right, so you go down there with the family. Like, what's a typical day on property look like? Are you spending time on property? You going off property most days? Like, what's a day look like for Joey at this property?
Sure. I'll tell you one thing I didn't do that I would do correctly in the future. You really need to rent a car, I think, in Turks, unless you're just really looking to veg out for the week. It's pretty easy to drive there. Most people are going slow. There's a lot of potholes. Like it's not that intimidating of a place to drive if you're nervous. I would go from the airport to Graceway Gourmet, which is a grocery store. Just imagine an American grocery store with everything costing 3 times as much money, and you can pretty much envision Graceway Gourmet. But they actually had, I think, a better selection than any of the grocery stores I've been to in the Bahamas, from like actual American brands. I mean, just as a quick something to reference, like I went to the coffee section. They had Nespresso original pods, Nespresso Vertuo pods, Keurig pods, ground bean coffee, whole bean coffee, which I only say that because our hotel had given us every machine. So then I was like, ooh, what do I, what do I want? I would just go there. And if you stay at this property, everyone staying in your room, as far as I could understand and tell, it's free breakfast, right? So breakfast is covered, but I would even just buy sodas, beers, snacks. Even if you're going to eat every meal off property, the prices were reasonable enough, but we one time made the mistake of getting a few things at the pool. And somehow if you order let's just say a Diet Coke or Coke Zero or Coke at the restaurant, the Clubhouse in Lua, which is the restaurant area, they're charging $5 for a drink. You bought the same 12-ounce can at the pool and they were charging $10. Whew. Yeah. And so for me, I was like, we hadn't gone to the grocery store yet. And I was like, my gosh, I could walk 8 feet to my room, and pull one out of the fridge. Not to mention all they had at the food stand or whatever at the bar was beer. So then I ordered it and this guy literally walked, I think, the half mile back to the restaurant. So it was just, nitpicking thing, but I would just go right to the grocery store. I honestly would even get making my own lunches or like snacks for the kids, like even just like fire up some dino nuggets in the air fryer, or, try and get through to dinner for sure.
And every room has full kitchen, right? Like it's, 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom or plus, but full kitchen, fridge, microwave, whatever you need, right?
And if you look at the video of the room tour, I mean, it's a full, I've got dual sinks, like multi-burner stove. I've got a microwave and induction oven. You've got a full fridge and freezer. The fridge and freezer in this hotel room was bigger than the one in my house.
Yeah, so you could essentially, if you wanted to, do lunch and dinner there. You could probably, I would imagine, in Turks and Caicos, if you wanted, hire a private chef for a night or two, depending on the crowd you had. Um, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think that's a terrible idea. I almost think about this as like some kind of blend between like a Airbnb, VRBO, and a hotel. It's a managed property with hotel amenities, and it's a little light on the hotel amenities, I would say, compared to like your typical like resort property. We were talking about pricing, and it was like these 2-bedroom boathouses through the 2025 calendar when we were looking are pretty much on par with a base room at the Ritz-Carlton.
That's what I was just going to say. I mean, a base room there is not cheap, so you're getting a lot of space. And I don't
So
think we may not have mentioned it. This is Hilton affiliated, right? So if you're staying there, you're going to get Hilton points and things like that. So if that's important to you, you're going to get your Hilton nights, you're going to get your Hilton points, stuff like that.
yeah, you can book through Hilton. It's technically under the Hilton umbrella through small luxury and hotels, which I will say is like probably one of my more favorite smaller hotel chain. I mean, they're really independent hotels that just fall under this British name of SLH, but they do a better job of vetting some of these smaller hotels than most, I would say, especially some of the bigger ones. Like I've yet to really stay in a bad SLH hotel. Like I feel pretty confident when I see an SLH property. I'm like, okay, this is probably, at least from like a service level and those things, decent. I just don't want someone to think they're walking into like a, Hilton Waikiki Village or something when they get there. It's definitely a higher level of service, a higher level of status and care. And I think with that being said too, like that's one thing about this property I really appreciated was the Caribbean is not known the most, right, for service. And I don't even want to say people are unkind because I don't think that's fair, but I think just culturally, most people in the Caribbean are very, I don't know, like literal and upfront, and like people, especially Americans, I think can perceive it as coldness a little bit. Like they don't feel the need to like fill blank space with words or, they're just like, oh yes. And then that's it, like this staff was trained incredibly. It was the best service experience I've had in the Caribbean by miles. I did happen to just randomly meet the GM. He was out front when I checked in. He was great. He seemed to be on top of things. And then they had even imported some Southeast Asian staff for some of the, I think, more touch point based things. Like, I think they considered a butler, but I had a guy I could like WhatsApp who would help out with things. He was that. We had this lady, Rachel, who my daughter ended up loving. We'd run into a lot. I'm not really sure what she was doing. Some kind of like, she was doing a lot of the general manager, like physical duties. Like we had issues with our key scanning and she came and fixed that and some things. But it was just an interesting blend. And I felt like a lot of the locals that they had working in the restaurant and stuff too were real chatty and cracking jokes and pretty on top of stuff from what you would consider a stereotypical Caribbean experience. And so I was very impressed with that. And then if you look through the reviews, this property is owned by Grace Bay Resorts that has 3 or 4 other properties in Turks. They all seem to have a pretty good reputation for better service than what you're expecting, I think, in the Caribbean.
All right. So that is saying a lot, right? Because I would definitely agree with you. Caribbean service can be hit or miss. So kind of circling back to on property, dining impressions, breakfast, where are you eating breakfast on property, and what kind of dining options do you have?
Sure. Yeah, I guess we kind of got off the rails there from
That's all right.
dining. But
That was on me.
so when you pull into the property, there's a guard shack, and then you'll check in at this place called the Clubhouse. That houses the only restaurant. It's called Lua, Lua. I think you say Lua. I'm not really sure. You'll be pretty familiar with that area. And then breakfast, as far as I was under the impression, was free for everybody. The coffee was really good. Is a little watered down, but I liked it. I ended up drinking like 6 cups a morning. So that was nice. I didn't have a problem with it, but man, bad coffee is just a terrible way to start your day. And then they had it's kind of a hybrid. You've got a buffet that's got fruits, oatmeal, a couple pastries, which they're really good at pastries, by the way. There's sourdough bread and some of they had a banana bread that was delicious too. But all your typical stuff you expect to see, yogurts. And then they had a mini hot menu where you could do like avocado toast, eggs Benedict. You could order eggs any way you wanted with sausage, bacon, some of the base. So it turned into a pretty full breakfast. I was pretty happy with it every day. They rotated some of the pastries and fruits and sides each day. So it didn't feel, I was there for 5 nights. So I didn't really feel like I was eating the same thing. Quality wise, it was fantastic. For being a newer property, like the food and bev, I thought was pretty top notch, which I think that's a hard thing to get right for a lot of hotels.
Yeah, I was going to say that's normally the biggest miss on new properties, service and dining.
Yeah. And then, so dinner is in that same restaurant. I could only manage to eat there twice just because it was like, okay, we'd already been to breakfast there like 5 days. We did it the first night. We did it a night in the middle. We liked everything we had. Had a lot of good fishes. A lamb, which was pretty well done. Once you leave America, I tend to try and avoid the beef, but I don't remember. I got tuna one night and then I had a different fish the other night, and me and my wife like swapped a little bit, but everything there I would have ordered again. And it's like, if they had another venue, I might have even eaten dinner on property one more time, but it was just, I don't know. It's like, once you're already there for breakfast, it's like, all right, I need a new scenery to, get out and eat.
Well, I feel like Turks and Caicos has a lot of really good restaurants. I don't remember the names of some of them, but I remember Thanksgiving, we ate like on the ocean, like right on the beach. Like our table was in the sand. And I remember really enjoying that. And there was some really good food.
Yeah, I'll give a shout to a place. I did a lot of research. I was in some of the Facebook groups in Turks, and I actually stumbled upon this place in Reddit. It was kind of the only place I heard about. It's called Embers. It's actually right across the street from Graceway Gourmet, where you should be buying all your groceries. It was fantastic. It's run by a guy from Montana who moved down there, and they have their own butcher shop in there. They're importing USDA beef if you really need a beef kick.
Getting bison there from Montana, right?
I think so. I don't even remember what I ate now, but same situation. Everything was really good. It was just as expensive as eating in the hotel. Like, you pretty much can't really save money on food in Turks unless you're cooking at home, but you're buying groceries at 3 times the price. So, that just travel with a large food budget, especially if you have like teenage kids and some things. So it's about 10, 15 minutes from the property. Coco Bistro was a place I really wanted to go. A lot of people recommended, but we were there close to Christmas, and I think they had been sold out for 16 months since then. We did go to a place called Marine Room, which was another real cool place that's newer, but it didn't have all the accolades and I think is busy as well. And that was another place I would go back. It's a little far. It's kind of like all the way down by Smith Reef, which is, top tip, a really good snorkel spot if you're trying to snorkel, but you do need water shoes because there's like urchins. It's real rocky out there, but it's even tagged, I think, in Google as like a snorkeling trail location.
All right. So we hit lots of food stuff. Let's talk about, and this is what I'm pretty curious about, like the on-property experience. So, you've got your food covered. What's there to do there? Like, can you go to the beach? Do they have swimming pools? And then I'm curious what the gym's like, or if they have a gym or fitness center.
Sure. Oh, we'll start with the beach, and not to keep plugging, YouTube, but I did a full like 30+ minute property walk. So if you really want to see what's going on, because there's not a lot of coverage about this hotel. I mean, it's only been open now 12 weeks, I want to say, not even, maybe 10 weeks. I do a full property walk. The beaches are a little rough, I will say. They're building a whole new villas complex right between the boathouses on the water and the homes. And it's going to be under construction for a long time. They weren't actively working on it when we were there, so it wasn't that bothersome to us at all. But there's a beach path there you can go through, but it's like, it's elevated from the ocean. So you can't really access the water very easily there. It's like a rock pile with some beach on top. The sand there was really nice, but there's no beach services there. And then if you go all the way across the property, which they'll take you in a golf cart, or you could just drive and park at the end of the cul-de-sac, there's another beach entrance with a really, really, really pretty beach. It's no Grace Bay Beach, but it's one of the better beaches I've been on still. They have very light services. Like, there's no umbrellas, but they have a guy who's got chairs and I think keeps other people away. I don't really know what else he's doing. I think, he's got towels and things for you as well. So like, if you're determined to be like on the ocean and have a great beach experience, I don't know if it's the best property for you. However, I did mention they're owned by Grace Bay Resorts, and they will shuttle you over to that property, or you could just drive and park over there like we did. It's about same area as that grocery store and that Embers restaurant. 15 minutes, call it. They have the best beach I've ever been to in my whole life. And you can just go there and you have access to all of their properties staying at South Bank. So they'll give you a list of all the different properties. Grace Bay Resort, I think, is the really only one. That's the only one we went to. That seems to be the one that seems the most valuable. You can get out on that beach. Theoretically, you're supposed to be able to bill everything there to your room.
That's what I was just going to ask. Like they'll set you chairs up, give you towels, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes, that all worked really well. However, billing to my room, I got a lot of blank stares, and they were like, you can't bill here. They had told me I could, and I know someone else that stayed there and did it, but it was one of those things where it wasn't really worth the extra. Go find someone who knows how to bill this to the, whatever. I just gave them a credit card and we called it a day. But I'm sure as time goes on, they're more used to people coming from there. Billing to the room will be flawless, Now, if you're into boats or you have a kid who's into boats, especially if you're in the boathouses, you are basically sleeping on the water that goes in and out of the marina. So there were a lot of really cool, huge catamarans, some like Viking fishing boats that are like $10-15 million cruising around. So if you're like a boat nerd, fantastic. That water also had a lot of turtles we could even just see from like hanging out on our boat dock and stuff in the morning and evening. Really, the hidden gem or the reason this property I think has value is from their man-made lagoon. I think it's like a 5-acre man-made lagoon. So as you leave the marina, they just dug out all the ground and filled it with water. And then they left these islands in the middle. So you walk on these bridges through. The first little island has like a restaurant, well, like a bar where you can order things. And then they built all these 2-person, like, it's just like a wooded dock, but like only meant for like 2 beach chairs, right? So they're like kind of little private, and they've got them all over the little island. So that's real nice. And then the second island is like the activity island. So they've got 2-person kayaks, single-person kayaks, paddle boards, and you've got free access to all of that stuff. They've got life vests if you need them. There were people snorkeling in that man-made water. It was about 78 degrees, so I was not really eager to get in there. My daughter got in there a little bit. I think the one downside, and it may get better with time, all that land is like dug up, and so the sand really sucked. Like it had a lot of rocks in it, and like felt very like almost limestoney a little bit, like crushed limestone more than like nice sand. So I'm hoping they'll either import sand or, as time goes on, all the water will wear that down. But if I was nitpicking, that was not my favorite part. My favorite part of that whole area was they had hammocks, which I like.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It looks awesome. Like that to me looks like one of the highlights of the property.
It is for sure. That's where we ended up spending most of our time. And that's why I said, I don't know where everyone was in this property. The pool is there. It's a pretty standard resort pool. It goes from like walking distance to like 4 feet deep. It's not the biggest, it's not the smallest pool I've ever seen. But yeah, if you're going to spend time on property, I think the lagoon, if you really want to do a beach day, I would go up to Grace Bay Resort. The lagoon is kind of cool. There's a lot of shade. So if you're like someone that doesn't really want to be in the sun all day, I think that was helpful. My daughter spent a day building sandcastles out there, would dip in the water. The water still got that turquoise, blue-green. We would even see fish.
That's what I was going to ask you. With people snorkeling, like, was there anything in there?
I saw one turtle in there, and then I saw a bunch of fish. I liked kayaking around there. Like, I kayaked out to kind of the edge of the marina, and I'd come back. I did have to kayak in an emergency one time because I left my flip-flops and some things on one of those outer, I was saying they've got those outer wooden, the wind blew and took my sandals into the lagoon.
Now are kayaks and stuff complimentary?
Yeah, all that stuff, the kayaks, paddle boards, it's all included.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you just, go ask them to get you set up in those. And like I said, they've got life vests as well. So you could definitely spend a couple days on the lagoon, I think, and have a real good time, especially if, most of the time you're going to be going to this property, I imagine with like multi-generational or friends, like I think you can find enough stuff to have a good time. I also imagine it when it gets hotter outside, the water temps are going to be amazing. It's probably going to feel like a huge bathtub in that thing with the smaller
Yeah,
water
I would
flow.
agree. All right, so I know you're a runner. When you ran, is the property big enough? I saw it was like what 30, according to Google, 31 acres. Could you run on property the whole time, or did you go out and adventure?
I ran 6 miles and didn't leave the property. I definitely ran up and down each road several times, but
Okay.
my big issue is like the roads are just not the most well paved when you leave property. There's no sidewalks. So I just woke up at 6 a.m. just ran along in the property for a good while. There's some people that on Strava people had built some running paths through these Long Bay hills. I just was like, I wanted to get out and run. It's like one of my favorite things to do is leave the property and go check it out. But I was like, I'm not trying to roll my ankle on
Yeah. No, I agree
Christmas
with you on that.
weekend. So I did stay on property. You can make it happen. The gym is pretty small. It overlooks the lagoon, which is cool, but it's pretty basic. You got a couple treadmills, I think 2 or 3 Pelotons, real light of those like auto weight machines. I don't know what the technical name, for those are. It looks like
Like a
it's like the
total,
size. Yeah,
like the
something.
electric ones.
No, 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 no.
Oh, okay. All
Like a
right.
base, like an
Oh
old
yeah,
school
yeah.
Gold's Gym. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, it looked like it was honestly like 2 containers they just like shoved together and put out on the water. The spa's kind of the same. I didn't do any spa services. They did offer us like 25% off if you booked it one of the first 2 days you were there. I don't know if that's common or whatever, but spa seems a little underwhelming as well. The spa rooms overlook the lagoon as well, but they didn't build out something immaculate. Like it looks very simple.
That's all right. So, what's your, I guess, overall impression? Would you go back here? Would you do anything different?
Yeah, I think I would go back. One of my big hindrances being in Dallas with Turks is it's just not easy to get to. We flew to Orlando, overnighted in Orlando at the airport, and then took Southwest in. It ended up being very cost efficient, but we burned a whole day trying to get to Turks, which I didn't love. I'd probably go back. I think I would only go back with bigger group of people, like either bringing my parents, my wife's parents, or some cousins or some friends, almost like, a real fancy family reunion type setup or something like that. And I think I wouldn't even skip the lagoon villas. I think if I could get enough people, some of those oceanfront homes look incredible. Now, they come with a price tag, but I mean, if you were at the point you're already going to buy 2 2-bedroom boat houses or into one villa, I think when I've looked through the price counter, the marginal difference of going into the oceanfront home, because the thing about the oceanfront homes is they're all custom built, which I think is cool. Like if you look in my property tour, they're all very different, even from the outside. Like the layouts aren't the same. They all have unique things, but some of them have humongous pools. One has like a big glass pool that goes all the way out to the ocean that's like
Oh, that's
see-through.
cool.
Yeah. So I just, if you can swing it budget wise, like I would definitely look at those houses and, you know, even if, we can help you in this case or however you come across the information, digging into the property and just trying to find the home that fits you the best. A lot of the lagoon villas seem pretty cookie cutter, and not that it's a bad thing, but they all kind of look like the same. So if you get one of those, they're a little bit bigger than the boathouses, pushing over 2,200 square feet. So you are getting some more space in there. But I think the real magic is in some of those oceanfront homes.
Oh, that'd be cool to check out. Anything else we want to hit on while we're talking South Bank?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I know I'm looking to, like, we talked about like multi-generational. Like, I really like the idea of having these 2 bedroom, 2 bathrooms, especially with, as the kids get older. I find that I'm booking 2 hotel rooms everywhere I go. I feel like this is a much better layout than like connecting hotel rooms. Like
Yes.
having the kitchen, particularly in the islands when food is so expensive.
I know.
I do enjoy being able to have drinks and lunch and snacks and stuff in the room.
Well, also, like, imagine doing 2 rooms in the Ritz.
Oh yeah. I mean, we went for a couple nights and I mean, we just did a 2 queen bedroom, which, I mean, that was running at the time well over $1,000 a night. So it's like, if you had to do 2 of those, you could do this 2 bedroom for about the same price as 1 room.
Yeah, I think one of the other unique things is, so this property, I did mention a little bit, is pretty much tied into South Bank Marina. So if you are like a boating person or coming from, a lot of people boat around the Caribbean islands, like that's another place. You need to think you can be right there on the marina. And then backed up to the marina, you've got pickleball court, tennis court that you can, get full service to as well. So I do really like the property, I think, as a whole. I mentioned I would be willing to go back multi-generationally or, with friends and family. I think if you start pricing out 2 rooms at the Ritz or, even Grace Bay Resorts or some of these other properties, or 1 room at the Amman, heaven forbid you start looking at pricing wise, all of a sudden these villas and these boathouses and stuff look like have incredible value. I don't know if the pricing will change, hold up, but I think especially in this first year of staying there, you're talking about 2 base rooms at the Ritz-Carlton, and then all of a sudden instead you're in a 1,700 square foot, essentially townhouse, full kitchen, 2.5 bath, full place to sit and eat. And then I think you were looking up, Jamie, some of these bigger houses to maybe talk about some of the specs on.
I am, so I don't see a lot of info on here square footage wise or anything. So I'm actually looking on their website, but I can see some pictures for these ocean estates. So I'm looking at a ocean estate Banks 5-bedroom. Says it sleeps 10 people. Looks like there's a mixture of twin and king rooms in there. But I mean, it's right on the ocean. These bathrooms, I mean, I'm looking at some of the bathrooms in here. They've got windows in the shower that look out right to the beach over the ocean, which looks pretty amazing. This one has this really nice open air courtyard. So it looks like the house is almost built like a compound. So almost 3 or 4 sides, and the glass walls from like the living room and the kitchen and everything open to this open air courtyard. And you can like see right through the house, glass out to the ocean, which looks pretty amazing. Living room and dining area look massive. And again, glass windows looking out to the ocean. This one has a private pool right on the beach. So this thing looks incredible. If you had, 10, I feel like a 5-bedroom, 10 people kind of feels like a low amount of occupancy in there for the size of this thing. But I'll double check on that. But if you had the right group of people or the right family mixture where you could do a 4 or 5-bedroom and stay in this place, this looks pretty awesome. 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms. Here's an ocean estate bluff. There's no pictures, but a 6-bedroom. Another 6-bedroom, looks like it's got a pool looking right out over the ocean. There's a ton of really amazing looking homes here.
Yeah. And then I think it's nice as opposed to just renting a house out in the middle of nowhere, you do have hotel amenities, staff to, take care of you, assist you with things. It is a really good balance. Now, keep in mind, it's only 92 rental units. So I think in peak times, plan ahead. Like, I don't think you're coming here the week before Thanksgiving and staying for Thanksgiving or something like that. But I think it's a very welcomed addition to Turks and Caicos. And, Turks has got a lot of nice properties. They've got a lot of good high-end properties. I think there's an Andaz that should be opening 2026, 2027, hopefully, knock on wood.
One day.
I drove by it. It looks like a hotel now, at least from the outside.
That's good.
So that's
when I was there, it was just a dirt plot. So that's good.
Yeah.
I am looking at a 6-bedroom house now. This thing has an outdoor fire pit. It's got an outdoor kitchen, barbecue grill. This looks pretty fantastic. So bathtub that looks out over the ocean. If you got, like we said, if you got the right multi-gen or right mixture of people, this would be fantastic. And if you do something big like that, you could probably get a private chef to come in for you a couple evenings. Like, that would be a great experience.
I don't even know what we're doing next week either. Well, for the next episode. Let me put a closing in here because I got to sneak out of here.
Yep. Yeah, all good.
All right, guys. I think that's a wrap on South Bank, Turks and Caicos. If you feel like we did not give you enough info, I can't stress enough, head over to YouTube. I literally walked to the entire property, 30 plus minutes. I have a 2-bedroom boathouse tour. And if you need help with booking and assistance with South Bank or any other hotel, we can usually provide a lot of extra value, work on some of your trip planning for you. It's travelbrospod.com. We've got a book with us link. Fill out the form. We'll get back to you super quick. Or if it's easier for you, DM us, Instagram, TikTok. We are around and available to make your trips and dreams come true. Where are you off to next, Jamie? Give us a little sneak preview where you're headed.
Man, I am actually heading down to Universal in Orlando in a couple hours. Flying down there I haven't been in years, so going to check it out. Staying at Lowe's Portofino, which is actually a Virtuoso property. So get some extra perks and benefits there. So looking forward to it. And you're heading out today or soon too, right?
Yeah, tomorrow I'll be flying somewhere and then driving to Austin, Texas, staying at the Thompson in Austin. The Thompson in Austin. Property I've never been to. I've got a nice suite, the San Jacinto suite. It looks pretty cool. I'll have a room tour up on that shortly, I'm
Always nice to
sure.
have a name suite.
Yeah, I know. Yes. I mean, well, funny enough, I think that's the name of the street. So I'm guessing that
Oh,
just implies, I think it's just implying what view you have, but I will find out shortly when I'm there.
all right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.